Welcome back to the course on digital logic and computer architecture. Okay, we are discussing about the input-output modules and how we are going to handle I/O devices. Okay, now to connect I/O devices to the processor, we have seen that we are going to take help of an I/O module, and through I/O module we are going to connect. And to transfer the information from input devices to the processor, or maybe from processor to the output devices, we have three different techniques. Okay, in last class I have mentioned about it. These are the programmed I/O, interrupt driven, and DMA, direct memory access. And we have discussed about the issues related to the programmed I/O in our last class. Okay, now today we are going to see the issues related to interrupt driven I/O. Okay, now what are the advantages that we are going to get and how we are going to perform this particular interrupt driven I/O. So if you look into this interrupt driven I/O, then what you are going to get, we basically overcomes CPU waiting. Okay, so it overcomes CPU waiting. In programmed I/O, we have seen that once it initiates some input-output operation, then what will happen? That processor is going to continuously inspect or monitor the status register. When status register indicates that it is ready, then processor is going to perform the data transfer operation. But in case of interrupt driven, we are going to overcome this particular CPU waiting. So no repeated CPU checking of devices. So I/O module interrupts when ready. So now processor say initiates a I/O operation, input output operation. Then processor may do some works if it can be done, or if this information is available inside the processor. Now it has already initiated a process. Now when I/O modules are ready, then I/O modules interrupts the processor. Now processor is going to give service to the I/O devices through I/O module. So this is basically interrupt driven I/O. Now what are the basic operation in the interrupt driven I/O? So in a nutshell, you just see CPU issues read commands. So it is for input operation, it is read commands, and for output operation, it may be write command. So I/O modules get data from the peripheral while CPU does other works. Now say processor has issued the read command, so it is given to this particular I/O module. Now I/O module is going to coordinate with the peripheral devices, and it may collect some data for the peripheral devices. In the meantime, CPU does other works. So when it is ready, then what will happen? I/O module interrupts CPU. Now I/O module interrupts CPU. Then what will happen? CPU request for data. Now it is initially started with command. Now when I/O module interrupts, then now processor request for the data, then I/O module transfer the data. So these are the basic steps or basic operation that we are going to do in case of an interrupt driven I/O. Okay, so first request comes from the CPU, then what will happen? If everything is ready, then I/O module interrupts the processor, and then CPU request for data, and I/O module transfer the data. Now this is the simple interrupt processing. Now in this particular case, what I mean to indicate over here, that we have already seen about the procedure or function. Okay. To give this provision of procedure and function in our processor, so we need two instruction. We say one is call and second one is return. So with the help of this call instruction, we are going to call up procedures. After completion of the job in the procedure or function, then what will happen? It comes back to the program that we are executing. So basically now what will happen? This is your main memory, and here so we are having the main program. Just I am saying that main program, and say here I am having a procedure. So to get information or handling I/O operation, we should have a program, or we should have a procedure, and we said this is the procedure, or we can say this is the device service routine. Okay, to have solved that particular, or to work with that particular device, we need a program, and we said this is the device service routine. Now what will happen when at some point of time, say if processor is requesting for I/O operations, say I want to transfer some information maybe from hard disks or maybe from some other devices, then what will happen? It initiates the process, then what will happen? When we are going to transfer the operation, then what will happen? It have to execute this particular procedure, which is basically a device service routine. So this is some similar to the procedure call, only from here we are coming to this particular procedure. After completion of this particular procedure, it will go back to the next instruction. So these are the things that we have to do. So this is the simple process. Now what is the first case? A device controller or other system hardware issues an interrupt. So it got an interrupt. Now processor knows that to now give service to the interrupted devices. Now processor finishes the execution of the current instruction. So now what will happen? We are executing this particular instruction. Then we know that in the next memory location we have the next instruction. So you just keep information of the starting of an instruction. We don't have any provision to keep information in between. Say if a particular instruction has a 3-4 different phases, like that instruction phase, then maybe indirect cycle, then it will go for the execution cycle, like that. So we don't have any provision to keep the intermediate step or intermediate point. So that's why it is going to execute this particular instruction completely, and we know that program counter is pointing to the next instruction. So instead of fetching this particular next instruction, what will happen? We are going to run this particular service routine, okay, device service routine, and it will program counter will be loaded with this particular starting address of this device address. So that's why processor finishes execution of the current instruction. Now what will happen? It after completion, if now processor signals acknowledgement to the interrupt. Now processor give an acknowledgement signal to the interrupting devices or maybe to the I/O module. It says that now processor is ready to serve for this particular interrupted devices. So in this particular case, processor pushes the PSW and the program counter into the control stack. So we know that we are having a control stack in our memory, which helps us to write your nested subroutine call or maybe recursive call. So what basically we do? We keep the program status work and the program counter. So these are the two basic information that we require to restore our environment. That means to come back to this particular next instruction of the main program. So now processor loads the new PC value based on interrupt. Now based on interrupt, we are having several interrupt service routines. This is maybe for hard disks. In some other location that we may have some other service routine to handle some other devices. So what will happen in this particular case? Depending on the device, it is going to load the program counter with the starting address of this particular device service routine. Now we are ready to run this particular program, but before starting it, it may happen that we have to do some more operations, so some more bookkeeping. So that information will be done in the software side. Okay, like your procedure call or function call, what will happen? We are going to store this particular basic information PSW and program counter, and if some other relevant information is required to store or keep retain it, then generally we are going to push those information to the system stack, and that will be done in the hardware. So it says that save remainder of the processor state information. Now basically when we say that remainder of the processor state information, basically it is going to look for the all general purpose registers. So we are having several general purpose registers. Those registers may be used in our main program to store our intermediate result or store our data. But when I am going to execute this particular procedure, service routine, again we may have to use those particular registers to store our intermediate result or to keep some information. So to retain this particular original value of our main program, it may happen that we have to retain those particular information. So how we are going to retain it? We are going to push it to the system stack. Okay. So you just say depending on the requirement, we are going to store it. Now we may have several registers, But while we are doing in the software or we are writing a program to handle it, then we can see what are the registers are in use in the main program. We can only store those particular information. It is not required to push the information of all the register to the stack. That means we can do some sort of optimization. So this is a provision we may have when we are going to do these things in the software. After that, it will process the interrupt. Now it will complete this particular interrupt service routine. That means it is giving service to this input output devices. So once it's complete, then what will happen? Restore processor state information. That means whatever information we have pushed into the stack, then we have to pop it out. Okay, this is done in the software level. Then restore the old PSW and old PSW. So whatever program counter value that we have stored and the PSW processor status word, that will be restored back. Okay, so this is the way that we are going to give service to the interrupted devices. So what is PSW basically? I think it says, I already mentioned about that we are having several flag bits. We can combine all those particular flag bits and we say that this is our program status word, because when we execute a program, when we perform some ALU operation, then what happens? It will change those particular flags bits, and this is basically if we have done some operation in a main program, then it is setting those particular flag bits accordingly. When we are going to execute something in an interrupt service routine, then those flag bits will be get affected. So we have to restore this thing. So that's why we are saying that we are going to store this particular program status word. Okay. So basic things, what will happen? We are going to restore program counter and program status word. Basically these two things will push into the stack, and after that in software we are going to push other information like the contents of the registers and other relevant distance. Okay. Now this is simple scenarios about the handling of our interrupt. So what will happen? Say interrupt occurs after instruction at location unset. This is my user program running. So currently it is executing in this particular instruction n, and when it is executing instruction of this location n, then what will happen? At that time interrupts occurs. So some IO modules has given some interrupts. Okay. At that particular point, what will happen? It is going to complete the execution of this particular instruction, and it is going to retain this particular information. That means it is going to store the value of program counter n plus 1 to the stack. So this is the value of program counter where I am having this n plus 1, and this is the stack pointer. Say I am having this particular t. So that means something like that t we are having. Then we are going to put the information. Okay, so what will happen? What it is going to do? Just it's showing like that. These are the general purpose register. We are going to pushing this particular general purpose register. So basically storing this particular over here. Then we are storing this particular program counter value, and along with that we may keep the program status word. And one stack is now initially stack pointer is pointing at t. Now after pushing this information, now stack pointer will point to t m minus 1. So this is stack pointer. We are going to push the value t minus m. Okay, we are pushing all those things. Now in the program counter, what will happen? We are going to put the value this particular y. This is the start address of my interrupt service routine. So this is the interrupt service routine for a particular device. So we are going to start from here. So program counter will be pushed over here. Now once this is the setting we are doing, now we are going to execute this particular program. Now once it completes, then what will happen? Return from the interrupt. Now in this particular case, what will happen? You just see we have kept this information in this particular stack. We are restoring this particular program counter value. So it is n plus 1 will be loaded over here. All the register values will be restored, and since I am popping it out, so accordingly the stack pointer will be restored. So it will become now t. Again coming back to this thing. So whatever we have stored related to this particular activity, all will be restored back, and now program is going to start from this particular n plus 1. Okay, so say this is my system stack. Okay, this is the user program and this is the interrupt service routine. So this is the fragment in my main memory. And inside the processor, we are having this particular program counter, stack pointer, and those general purposes. Now we are going to, while we are going to give service to the interrupt service routine, we are going to push this information to the stack, and after completion, we are going to restore it back, and we are going to start execution of the entire program. So these are the activities generally it does inside the processor when we are going to give a service to an interrupt service routine for a particular device. Okay. Now, in this way, now what we are going to do, what are things that we have to do when we are going to look for the interrupt service routine or going service to the devices, input output devices. So from CPU v1 it says that use the read command, already I said, do other work if something can be done inside the processor, check for interrupt at the end of each interrupt cycle, instruction cycle. Now what will happen, I say that one instruction cycle may have several steps, fetch, indirect cycle, like that. So after completion of the complete instruction, then it checks for the interrupt. So if interrupted, then save context, the way I am saying, then process interrupt, then you perform the job operation, then again fetch data and store. Okay, so these are the things that we have to do. All right. Now this is the basically things that I am saying that after end of each instruction cycle. You just see what is an instruction cycle. Basically, first we want to fetch it, then we execute it. After execution, it is going to check whether any interrupts are there or not. If it is interrupts are there, then it will go to the interrupt cycle. If it is not there, then what will happen? It will go back and fetch the next instruction. So this is the way that you can see how instruction cycle works along with the interrupt cycle. Alright. Now, what are the design issues? Now, how to identify the module using the interrupts? How do we deal with multiple interrupts? Okay, these are the basically issues that we have to handle now while we are going to design the interrupt driven I/O. So, if we are having several modules are connected, now how we are going to identify which module has issued that particular interrupt? Again, I/O devices will be connected to those particular modules. And how do we deal with multiple interrupts? So that means basically you can think about the nested interrupts. Say you are running a program, something has come from a particular device, that interrupt comes, you are now running an interrupt service routine. While running that interrupt service routine for a particular device, at that time another interrupt comes from another devices. Okay, so this is the multiple interrupt. We are handling one interrupt, but before completion of this particular interrupt, then what will happen? Another interrupt comes. Now, how to handle these things? Now, whether you are going to complete the service routine of the devices to which processor is giving service, or before completing it, you are going to give service to the new devices whereupon the interrupt has come. So, to resolve all these issues, basically we are going to set priorities to the device, and depending on the priorities, we are going to give the service. Alright. Now, identifying interrupting module. So, define lines for each module, limits number of devices, or we may have software poll. CPU asks each module in time. So, see basically say what will happen. We can have this particular procedure. Our processor says CPU. So, I can say that we are having one interrupt line. Okay. Now, through this particular interrupt line, we are connecting the devices, or maybe we are connecting the I/O module. So, it says that we can provide several such type of interrupt lines so that we can connect different devices. But again, it limits the device. Okay. So, basically now second one, it says that if we are having only one interrupt line, whether can we connect several devices to this particular interrupt line? We may connect it. Then how to do it? So, for that I think we may have two different ways to identify the device. One is your software poll and another one is hardware poll. Okay, or maybe some other names we have there like AGCN. So, now what happens in case of software poll? So, now what will happen? CPU branches to an interrupt service routine. So, CPU branches to an interrupt service routine. When interrupt occurs, then it will branches to an interrupt service routine, which is generic one. So, now poll each I/O module to determine which module causes the interrupt. Okay. Now, several modules are connected to this particular interrupt line. Now, it is going to poll each I/O module. So that's why it is called software pole. We are having a routine, software routine. It is going to execute this particular software routine. We can say this is the interrupt service routine. Alright. Now, how it does can be done by separate command line called test IO. So we can have one separate command line test IO through which we are going to give this particular command or going to have this particular port. Now processor raises test IO and places the address. Now what will happen? Now processor raises this particular test IO signal and says that now we are going to processor is going to test each and every devices or each and every IO module, and this places the address in the address bus. So all modules will be identified by a particular address. Now what will happen? It will give the test IO and it will place one particular address. So the IO module respond positively if it is set the interrupt. So this IO module respond positively if it sets the interrupt. Now you just say, I can take small example, say 4 IO modules are connected. Now what will happen? Now processor set this particular test IO signals and it will place the address of the first module in the address bus. So if this first module has generated this particular interrupt signal, then it will respond positively, says that yes, it has done it. If the first module has not raised the interrupt, then what will happen? It will simply ignore this particular address. Then what will happen? After some times, processor will place the address of the second module. If second module also does not raise the interrupt, then what will happen? Now processor will place the address of the third module. Now just see the third module says raise the interrupt. Then it will respond to the processor saying that yes, we did it, I did it. Then accordingly, now processor is going to execute the appropriate service routine by giving the acknowledgement to this particular IO module. Okay, this is one thing. This is the one way we can identify the module by which the interrupt has been generated. So for that, what will happen? We can use the signals called test IO, and accordingly we are going to give this particular addresses. But alternatively, by an addressable status register, we can do it. Now what will happen? In the IO module, we are having a status register. Now processor reads the status register to identify the interrupting module. Now what will happen? Now when it is going to check, now say I'll come back to our example. Say I have 4 devices. Now what will happen? First it will check the status bit of this particular first module. If status bit is not set, then processor identifies that now module 1 has not generated this particular interrupt. Then now processor is going to check the status bit of the status register of the second IO module. So if it is set, then now processor is going to give service to this particular IO module. You just say this is the way that processor is going to identify which module has given this particular interrupt, and we said this is the software pole. Now along with that, now what will happen when I am having this particular software pole? Now we can assign the priority to the modules. Now say processor is going to check it one by one. So in this particular case, what will happen? Processor is going to check the highest priority module first. Then it will go to the module of the next priority. Okay. Or when it places the address, it will first place the address of the highest priority one. Okay. So this is the way now we can think. So 4 processors are connected. Now it is going to give one by one. Okay, whichever is generated the interrupt, it is going to respond. Now say in this particular case, the way you are checking it, along with that you can set the priorities. Okay, highest priorities one will be checked first and the lowest priorities will be checked later on. Now while we are going to handle multiple interrupt, you just see that processor is giving a service to the third devices, which priority is 3. Before that we are having 1, 2 and the last one is 4. So we are having 4 devices, device 1, device 2, device 3 and device 4, and these are the priorities. So this is having the highest priority and device 4 is having the lowest priority. Now in this particular case, currently processor is giving service to this particular device 3. So at that time, if some interrupts comes from this particular say device 1, since it is a highest priority one, so now it will temporarily stop execution of this particular device service routine and processor is going to give service to the device 1. Okay, so users say we can handle the priority. On the other hand, when we are processor is giving service to the device 3, so at that time say interrupts come from the device 4. Since device 4 is having lower priority than device 3, so processor is going to complete the tasks of device service routine of device 3 and after that it is going to give service for this particular device 4. Now you just see when I am having this particular software poll to identify the module, along with that we can handle some sort of priorities also. Okay. So another one we are having identifying the interrupting module again, one is daisy chain or hardware poll. Okay, so earlier we have discussed about the software poll, now we are going to talk about the hardware poll. So it interrupt acknowledges send down to the chain. Okay, I'll explain it. Module responsible presses vector on the bus. This is vector, basically it's a vector. CPU uses vector to identify the handler routine. So basically for a particular devices we are having a particular device handler routine. Okay, so this is the way we can do. And another option we are having, which is your bus master. So we can place a bus master over here. So what basically it does, so module must claim the bus before it raises an interrupt. Now what will happen? So through your system bus, these IO modules or IO devices are connected to the processor, and through this particular system bus basically we are going to transfer the information. Now in case of bus master, what will happen? First devices will give the information to the bus master. Now bus master is look into the status of the bus, and when it bus is assigned to that particular devices, then only now it can raise the interrupt. So this is the way we can do it. Now we'll just simply talk about the daisy chain, what we are going to do in case of daisy. So interrupt acknowledges send down to SN. Basically what will happen in this particular case, I'll tell you. So this is your CPU. So I am having an interrupt line, IMTR. So what it does, through this interrupt line, devices are going to raise the interrupt. So we are having along with that we are having one say INTA, interrupt acknowledgement. So this is the interrupt signals. This is the interrupt acknowledgement. So what will happen when processor receives this particular interrupt through this particular interrupt line, then it completes the execution of the current instruction and it gives the interrupt acknowledgement signals. Okay, so it will go to the device. This is device 1, device 2, device 3, device 4. Excuse me. Now interrupt acknowledgement will first go to the device 1. So if device 1 has raised the interrupt, then what will happen? Then it will place the vector on the bus. So it will place the vector, maybe you can say this is the bus, and I can talk about say this is the address bus. So it will place this particular vectors which is going to identify this particular device. So accordingly, now what will happen? Now CPU uses this particular vector to identify the device handler routine. So basically for this particular device we are having a device handler routine, for the second device we are having another device handler routine. Now you say when processor gives the interrupt acknowledgement, say again say D1 does not raise the interrupt, then what will happen? It will pass this particular interrupt acknowledgement to the next device. So if the device 2 also say it has not also raised this particular interrupt, then it will pass to device 3. Like that it will pass on through these particular devices. Now in this particular case, user say whoever has raised the interrupt, he captures this particular interrupt vectors, interrupt lines, and places the vectors in this particular pass. Okay. Now secondly, user say this is the way we are going to identify the devices which is giving the interrupt. So here we are using this particular hardware arrangement to pass on this particular acknowledgement from first device to the second device. Then we are having a hardware circuit to pass it from device 2 to device 3, like that. So that's why we call it is a hardware pole. Again, you just see when we are having this particular hardware pole, again we can again what we can do, we can resolve the issues of priority, or we can assign the priorities to the devices. So basically what will happen in this particular case, how we are going to assign the priority, the device which is nearer to the processor, nearer in the sense of this electrical signal, interrupt acknowledgement signal, it is having the highest priority, because these devices is going to first get this acknowledgement. If device 1 does not raise the interrupt, then it will pass to the device 2. So necessarily you just see, if both the device 1 and device 2 has raised the interrupt, then first device 1 is going to get the service. Once it's complete the service, then only it will pass to this particular device 2. Okay. So you just say priority can be handled again in the hardware. Now again you just say at any point of time, say processor is giving service to the device 3, and at that time say interrupt has been raised by this particular device 4. Then since device 4 is having the lower priority than device 3, so processor is not going to stop the execution, so it will complete the service routine for device 3. After completion of this particular service routine only, it will give the service to this particular device 4. On the other hand, when we are giving the service to this particular device 3, and say interrupt comes from this particular device 1. Since device 1 is a higher priority device than the device 3, so in this particular case, what will happen? It will suspend the execution of this particular interrupt service routine. It is going to give service to D1, that means it is going to execute the device service routine of D1, and after completion it again will come back to this particular D3. So again you just see in hardware pole also we can assign the priorities to the devices and we can handle it accordingly. So this is already I have talked about how we are going to use multiple interrupts. So each interrupt line has a priority, or higher priority lines can interrupt lower priority lines. So basically you just say, again I am going to say now, here we can have the multiple interrupts. Now you just see, this is the CPU. Now what will happen? Sorry, I can have several interrupt signal. Okay, so I can say this is my interrupt 0, interrupt 1, interrupt 2 and interrupt 3, and so priority is like that. Interrupt 0, say it is having the highest priority, and interrupt 3 is having the lowest priority. So if a device connected to this particular line raise an interrupt, then what will happen? Since it is the highest priority, processor is going to give the service to it. And in the meantime, so some interrupts comes from this particular interrupt line 2, then what will happen? Processor will give the service to that particular device once it completes this interrupt 1. But on the other way around, if say processor is giving a service to the interrupt service routine for this device connected to the interrupt 2, at that time, say if interrupts come through this particular interrupt line 1, since it is having the higher priority than interrupt line 2, so processor is giving service to this particular. Again, you just see that to this particular line, I can connect different devices. Say this is device 1, device 2, device 3, like that. Here also I can connect several devices, either in the hardware pole or in the software pole. Okay, you can use hardware pole and software pole to identify this. Now you just see, we are having the priorities assigned to this particular interrupt line, and the device connected to a particular line can also define priority. Okay, so by in case of hardware pole, what will happen? Device 1 is having higher priority than device 2, then device 3. We just see now, whatever way we are going to do, we are having multiple interrupt lines. In one interrupt lines, you can connect several devices till we can set priority to those particular devices. So always higher priority devices can be interrupt lower priority device. Okay, so now I think you got it. So one is your, in a particular line, we can assign priorities to the devices connected to that particular interrupt line, and if we are having several interrupt line, again we can assign priorities to those particular several interrupt lines. So this is the way we are going to identify the devices, and we are going to set priorities to the devices when we are going to handle multiple interrupts. So this is basically in a nutshell I am saying how we are going to handle the interrupts, and in case of interrupts what will happen? It is nothing but we have to run a procedure to give service to that particular particular process. Now here I am just giving a small example about this 8086 family. So we know about this particular chip 80186, 286, or maybe Pentium series. So this is in this coming this thing. So this particular series 8086 system uses one 8259 interrupt controller. So already I said that since we have to handle several devices of several characteristics, so to handle it we are not implementing the functionality inside the processor, we give it to a module, we say it is IO module. So for 8086 family, what will happen? We are going to use this particular interrupt controller 8259. So 8259 has 8 interrupt lines. So basically now we can show you like that. So 80529 accept interrupt. So 8059 will be connected to the processor, and through 8259 it is connected to the devices. So now after that again it is having a provision, it first accept interrupts, then it determines the priority. Already I said that basically we are going to give service to the highest priority one. Okay, that way we resolve it. Now what will happen after setting the identifying the priorities and other things? Now 808259 signals to 8086. That means it is going to raise this particular interrupt line. So the processor is having an interrupt line. Now this particular device controller is going to raise this interrupt line. So when interrupt signals is received by the processor, then what will happen? After completion of the current instruction, it will send the acknowledgement signal. CPU acknowledges. Now 8259 puts the correct factor on the data bus. Okay. Now it will say correct factor means identifier of that particular interrupted devices. It says that these devices has send the interrupt. So now CPU processes the interrupt, that means CPU executes the interrupt service routine of that particular device. So this is the way we are going to handle interrupts in our machine. So now what will happen? It is 80829. This is 8259 or 82C59. Different versions are there. It is having 8 interrupt lines. So these are the 8 lines that is can be connected to devices. Now this is the interrupt signal given to this particular processor. So after receiving this processor, that processor will give interrupt acknowledgement. Now since we are having 8 input lines, so we can connect 8 devices also. But what will happen? It can be extended for more devices by giving another level. So instead of connecting a device over here, you will connect another 8259 over here. So what will happen? That means this line is now expanded for 8 more lines, so 8 more devices can be connected. So that's why it says that this is the master interrupt controller, these are the slaves interrupt controller. Now if we are going to connect 8 such slave interrupt controller, so total device that can be connected to this particular processor is 8 64. Okay, because all those particular slave controller can handle 8 different devices. So this is the way we can extend the IO handling capabilities of the processor by cascading this particular controller. So you just see everything is now given to this particular processor, like priority handler, handling this particular input devices, data transfer and all those things, and all those job will be done this particular controller, and finally it is going to give this interrupt signals to the processor just to get the service of the processor to transfer the information. Okay, so this is the way we are going to handle IO devices in interrupt driven mode. Okay, so with this I'll stop here today. Thank you very much.